And now I'm seeing that no one can hear me. All right, you guys should be able to hear me now. I believe so. Yes. Sorry about that, guys. Cool. Yeah. All right. Let me do that preamble again. Sorry, guys. I had a new setup and I apparently didn't have the audio switching over once we got going. Okay. So my name is Brandon. I'm the community and training manager here at Inventables, and we're going to be going into the inlay cutting board stuff today. This is actually an old tutorial that we did a couple of years ago with Easel Live. We actually did a series like this in the past with Mo, who was on the team. And so we're going to be going kind of through those same tutorials. I'll include links in the description in the future. If you guys are watching the replay on, you can watch the old tutorials. But right now, there's actually a project that I'll be going into and working off of. So if you guys are watching this live, when you jump into it, you will see what it looks like currently. And let me hopefully not kill the audio this time. Let's see, you should still be able to hear me. You're going to see something kind of like this if you guys click on that Easel project. So this is the inlay cutting board. You should see Easel Live as this first work piece. So yeah, we'll get into this one here in just a second. Sorry about that, you guys couldn't hear me. But all right, so I'm going to look back through the chat. Let me see where you guys are watching in from. That was the question that I asked that you couldn't hear me. So we've had people from kind of all over the world watch in the past. So I'd love to know where you guys are hanging out at. And if you didn't know, this year, the goal has been to do one of these every Wednesday at 1:30 Central, or 1:30 Eastern or 12:30 Central. So you guys should be able to tune in and catch these live, or always either on YouTube or on Facebook or even Twitch. You can check the replay. So, all right, we got a couple folks I'm seeing in the chat. We've got, let's see, Jose Roberts from Alabama, Ron from Michigan, Carita from Adisa, Texas, sorry. We got Derek from Murfreesboro near Nashville, David from Houston, Keith from the UK, but he's from Michigan, Alex from California, and I feel like I saw someone say something about China earlier. I might have missed that. But yeah, so we'll get going here in just a second. So I'm seeing lots of folks, especially over on Facebook. And so you guys may not see all the chat, but we're basically streaming to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So I can see the chat from both. So maybe you don't see everybody, although I think it is putting it in the chat. But cool. And we got Papa's Workshop north of New Orleans. We got Alberto from Honduras. Very cool. Technically Woodworking, what's up? You are back from North Carolina. And Brian from New Horizons Woodshop. Cool. All right, guys. So let's, we're going to go ahead and get into this one. This one's going to be pretty loose. I've done some of the work, not all of the work. So we actually might run into some issues as we're going, but this will be good. Oh, good question. So Mitch Barlow asked, when are you going to carve the growth chart? Yeah. So last week we did the growth chart. So we used the tiling feature inside of Easel. The plan was to actually carve it out in my shop this week, but I'm actually waiting on a different computer. So the stream actually works because I have a really old one in there right now. So the plan is next week we'll be in the shop. We may or may not be doing the growth chart. It honestly might just be kind of an overview of either the X-Carve or the X-Carve Pro, but we'll still use it for the X-Carve. Just kind of, it'll be a new setup for me. But then in the future, the idea is either maybe we'll do like 1 week where it's Easel specific, the next week is physically carving, or depending on the project, we might be able to do both at the same time. So yeah, good question. Stay tuned for that, and we will start doing that. Derek also is asking, Derek White, the contest. So yeah, we had a Pro Design Challenge. Let me actually pull that up real quick for you guys. Let me switch over so you guys can see what's going on. So if you didn't know, under our project section, we have lots of cool projects, and actually we're going to change this up, how this went this time. But if you go to featured, this Easel Pro Design Challenge, this actually just ended yesterday. And so we had a bunch of people go in and used our new Easel Pro Design library that we added in about last month. And we actually have quite a few submissions. And so we are going to be announcing the winner. Yeah, currently the plan was Friday. That's when we were doing the live streams on Friday, but now we've moved them to Wednesday. So potentially it actually might be next Wednesday. But yeah, you guys will know within a week who is winning. So if you guys want to go in there and see the other things that people have made, this is pretty cool. Actually, Richard has already made a growth chart, so we could just count that one as the one. What's also cool, if you guys didn't know about the project feature on our website, is any of these you can actually go in and then open up an easel. if they've been shared publicly. I actually should have checked on that one. But most of them, usually if they've been shared publicly, you're able to go in and check them out. So, all right, let's switch back. So any other questions before we get rolling? Cool. Derek, I like the guitar stuff, made a pedal board for it. Very cool. Well, that's one of the easel labs I want to do in the future, Derek, is actually an actual guitar. So either doing just like the contour of like a Les Paul or a Stratocaster, or even we can get into some of like the 3D carving where we would be using like Fusion 360, and then you can do some of the 3D toolpaths tool. But yeah, so that's something we might be doing up. Alrighty, guys. Well, let's go ahead and jump into Easel. And technically Woodworking said his is public, so everyone should go check his out. So yeah, also in the future, I want to make this to where like you guys can vote on. I think for this one, we're just going to have our staff vote on to start out. But moving forward, we'd love for all of you guys in the community to vote for your winners. And so there should be another contest coming fairly soon. Okay, so what are we doing today? We are talking about inlay cutting boards. And if you are wondering what an inlay cutting board is, if we Google it, you guys will see a bunch of, let's see, is audio working, everything still going good? Yeah, okay. You guys should see a bunch of these. And so these are pretty popular. There's a couple different ways to do it. So these especially, you can tell these are like different types of woods, like this Texas one. That's probably what walnut, that's darker in the middle. And so the idea is that you carve out a pocket, and then you carve out a thin piece of different color wood, and you glue them together. And so then you get this really cool inlay. Another way to do it is instead of doing a wooden inlay, I think this one's epoxy resin, is you could actually cut out the design, so just the epoxy or just the pocket, and then come back with epoxy and then pour that in and then sand it off, and you get a different effect. And then you can do kind of the crazy epoxy twirling, or you can just make it a solid color. So a bunch of different ways to do it. But today, what we're going to be doing, is doing the actual wooden version. So we're going to be cutting out two different things. It's actually, speaking of cutting board and guitar, I think someone said earlier, there's a cool one. This would actually be a fun project to do. We should design this in the future, because I think this will be a cool easel demonstration. So yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into what these look like. So like I said, in the actual YouTube description, there should be a link, or on Facebook, there is a link in this video right down below that should take you to this easel project. I believe it should be exactly like it looks right now, but when I start making changes, I don't think those changes update. Because you have to like clone it to start using it. So anyway, when if you guys are watching in the future, you can always come back and you should see the final project that we're doing right now. All that will be in there. But if you guys are watching live, just know you're going to see whatever this is right now from the starting point. I know we've had a few questions about that. Okay, let's see. I did see one question I want to address right off the bat. So Caleb saying, great question. He asked, are we doing V-Carve inlays today? Okay, so Easel does not support V-Carve inlays currently. Now, I know that's something that we have definitely talked about a good bit. And actually I think Papa, I feel like I talk about you every week. He just did a video on using Easel for inlays like a few days ago. I saw pop up. And I think he had just mentioned he's working on one that's V-Carve specific, and you would actually need to use V-Carve, the software, to do that, or some other different solutions. And the advantage of that is you can get finer details, because as we get into it, what we're going to be limited is by the width of the bit. So we'll do like a 16th, which is super tiny, and you can get some pretty good details. Actually, you can get some really great details, but some of like the insanely detailed V-Carve stuff, or insanely detailed inlays, are probably done with a V-Carve bit, or folks are just making the pocket, which you could just do with a normal V-Carve bit inside of Easel and then fill it with epoxy or something like that. So technically Woodworking says, heads up, link in YouTube, it goes to the growth chart project. I'm guessing that is your link, or maybe do I have a wrong link in there? That might be my bad. If so, then I will update that in the future. Sorry about that. I might have not switched that over. Okay, let's go ahead and start rolling. So first off, let's actually talk about how the inlays work. And so we have some generators that are add-ons, or actually apps that are add-ons to Easel. And you guys can go through here and you can see some of the different ones that we've got. And actually I'm seeing, yeah, several of you guys are saying you can't get in. So let me share this. If you guys are watching the replay in the future, then you will have the updated link. Sorry about this, guys. I thought I had sent this over. All right, this is going to go in the chat. That should go out to everyone. Let me do it this way, sorry. Okay, so that should be out to everybody. You guys should have that link, and that might be showing up a few times for you, so sorry about that. Cool. So the Inlay Generator. So the idea is we are going to cut out, let me pull up an example again, and in the future we'll actually have real things that we can look at. So the idea, if we go back to this Texas guy, is, what is this website? So if we go back to this Texas guy, you're going to cut out that pocket, and then you're going to have an actual cutout of the Texas state that's going to go on top of it. And normally you're going to do two different types of wood so that they contrast to each other. This is probably the same way. I can't tell. This one actually might be, no, I think that's wood as well. So you have Mickey and Minnie, and the heart are a different piece of wood that are cut out, and there's a pocket in the actual cutting board that is put in there. So because of that, there's actually going to be two different things that we cut out. So this is what it's going to kind of look like once you get through all the pieces. So let me actually start this from 0. And what you're looking at is, this is kind of the base shape. And so you always will create the design wherever you want, just like normal. And we'll go through some of the different processes to do that. And then from there, like I said, you're going to use the apps, and you're going to use this Inlay Generator, which is the top left featured one. And when you do that, it's going to create both your pocket and then your cutout that you're going to be able to put inside the pocket. Now, the reason we do this versus you could just do this, and then you could edit, copy, edit, and paste. And then you could switch the cut to outside the path, is because usually you're going to want some type of tolerance. So like right now, this is like exact. So this, I mean, technically could work, but even like the super nice machines, you're going to want some type of tolerance between these two pieces so that they fit. So what the generator actually does is it gives you this guy, and it's going to add in the tolerance, and it's going to take out the tolerance between those two. So it's going to add a little bit, so the piece is a little bit bigger than the hole. So you actually have to really push it in to get a really nice seal. Now you can adjust that tolerance as you go. You could actually make it less if you wanted to, and we'll talk about some different ways that you can kind of clean up the gaps. But we found usually by making it just a tad bit oversized and having the wood compress out a little bit, you get a really tight seal, and then you still have enough room at the bottom to do the glue and everything, to get everything to stick in there. So cool. Yeah, if you guys are just jumping on, sorry about that. There is a link in the chat that will take you guys to this project. I have the wrong one in the YouTube description. And again, if you guys are just jumping on now, love to know where you guys are watching in from, so we can say, hey. All right, so what that actually looks like in practice, if we delete all this, is I'm going up here to shapes. Let me move my mic because I'm looking at a different screen. We're going to hit the circle, and I'm going to make this an actual, yeah, I'll do a 2x2 just so you can see what it actually looks like. And you guys really don't need this yet, so let's zoom in a little more. And if you click it, and that's one thing with the apps, usually you have to select the geometry first before you can go into it. So like if I had nothing selected, I hit Inlay Generator, nothing's going to happen, and it's going to say please select a shape first. So click it, Inlay Generator, then you get this guy. And so what it's doing is it is giving you an inlay. You can see it's going to create the cutout and the pocket. So I might have been calling them the wrong things, and people call them different things, but you can see this is the cutout and this is the pocket. So you're going to want to put in the bit size, and this needs to be the same bit size as this. Now this doesn't automatically carry over. I think it's automatically set to 1/8 of an inch. Which is like the default when you usually start a new easel project. And it's going to set a tolerance of 0.003, which is what we found with kind of a standard X Carve. That's normally in the right range for working on the tolerance side of things. So yeah, you would set that, you'd hit import, and then you get these two different designs that are made. Let me stop the music because it keeps giving me who's playing. So The idea at this point would be you basically have 3 shapes, but you only need 2 of them, and you really only need 1 on a workpiece. So this is still kind of like the master, and if you guys have done stuff with this in the past, kind of the way I treat workpieces is, or at least down here, you can actually add more workpieces. So if you click this plus, you can add as many of these, I think as many as you want. You can edit, rename, sorry, that's my files. Edit, rename, whatever you want to do. And kind of the way I think of this is like a file history. And so actually you can click and drag these. This is something fairly in there. And what I like to do is kind of keep whatever the master design was on one workpiece, and then from there make all my changes. So in this case, I am just going to copy, and then I'm going to go to a new one, and I'm going to paste, because let's say I wanted, let me actually move these off so you guys can see what I'm doing. Let's say I wanted this right in the middle. So let me drop this, what is this, 8 by 12? So I'm up in the shape menu. I am going to make my X position 6, and I have that center point selected, so 6 and 4. And that's going to drop this right in the middle. So this is what I'm trying to cut out. And so instead of using this one to do it, I actually want to use the pocket that we created. I'm going to move this off for now. This is going to be 6, and this is going to be 4. And then you would set this to whatever depth you want your actual pocket to be. And so that's going to be whatever the thickness of your wood is that you're cutting out to put the inlay in. And so, I mean, we've seen anything from, I mean, you can make it really whatever you want, but a lot of people will have like 1/8 inch hardwood that they'll plane down, or you can buy 1/8 inch or even 1/16. And so it's almost kind of like you're doing a veneer, and you would just adjust this thickness. So let's say we're going, and actually I have this maple really thin. So let me go back real quick. Okay, so this is set to 1/2 inch. We'll set this to 1/2, just so we're all on the same page. And I made this, let's make this walnut, just so you guys can kind of see what's happening. So again, if yours looks different, we've got a 12 by 8 by 1/2 inch piece of walnut. We're using an 1/8 inch bit. So again, over here, I'm gonna switch it to walnut. So I basically wanted the same thing. I should just duplicated it. And now I want to actually make it an 1/8. And this is something I didn't even realize after a while from using Easel. You can just click these and it goes to the exact dimension. So it makes it a lot faster than having to type it in or trying to dial it in from there. Cool. So this is going to be the first thing that you do. Now, this guy, you could keep on there, or one thing you can do is you can always move this off of your workpiece. So anything in the blue is anything that's not on the actual workpiece that you're cutting out. So right now your machine thinks you have a 12 by 8 inch board. And so anything outside of it is outside of it, but it's still going to generate a toolpath. So like if we simulate this, you can see that it cuts out the pocket, but then it also comes out and it does the cutout over here. So an easy way to keep the geometry there if you want it, but you don't want it to carve out, is just to set that to 0. And so then it goes away. And that is, if you guys have seen us like mask things off of the piece, that was actually something we did last week. Same idea. So you just set it to 0, or if you're using multiple work pieces, you don't really need to do that because you still have your master saved right there. Cool. So I'm checking the chat real quick. Let's see. Ahmed, Rashid, basically layers. Yeah. So it's kind of like thinking of each of these as layers, except they're just broken out by work pieces. Now, this actually does layer the designs layer. So you can see right now that white is actually behind this guy. And so if you right click, you can send forward and send back like you can on most software. So if we said bring to front, then this will function basically like a mask on that piece. So you can see that we're getting this kind of, actually that's kind of cool, that little cutout right there. Also, one thing, if you guys are watching and you're seeing these little red pieces, I don't know if that shows up for everybody. This might just be something, since I'm on an Inventables account, this basically means it can't cut that geometry out because of the size of my bit. So like if I switch this over to a 60 degree, well, that's super thick now. It wouldn't show up, but all right, let me back out of that. And we're gonna move this out of the way. Cool. All right. So then the next thing we would do is we would just duplicate this. And I'm going to move this all the way over. So this project's going to look pretty messy. I think in the future I might change up how we do this so it's easier for you guys watching live and then the replay in the future. But the idea is now we delete this and then we just have this guy and that is going to cut this out. And so let's say, I know what walnut and maple, I mean like chessboards and stuff, that's always pretty popular. So let's say we set this to soft maple. And again, we're making this 1/8 of an inch. And what's that, 0.125? I always forget. Is that right? Yep. Cool. And then you can cut this out. Now this one, because you're just cutting the piece out, it really doesn't matter where in the board it is. This was centered because we had duplicated. Sorry, it wasn't centered. But you can put this wherever you want. So maybe you want to have it all the way at 0, 0 on the corner under the shape menu. So then that you could save as much material as you want. So this doesn't matter. So then to go through like the pretty much basic process is what we have done is we started with a simple shape. It's just a circle. That was a 2 inch by 2 inch. We went into our apps. We went into the Inlay Generator. We created both our, let me make sure I'm using the right words so I don't confuse anybody. We created the cutout and the pocket. So this is the pocket. And this is the cutout. And then we created 2 new workpieces so that we can actually cut those out. So this is just all design stuff right here. This is all for reference. This is where we'll actually send stuff to the CNC. So we would go in and we would say we want to cut this guy out. So you go through the Carve menu. Do I have it close? I don't think I have it close. I don't have the Carve hooked up right now, but you'd go through the Carve menu, do your normal carving. You don't change your bit. That's a big piece, is you want to keep whatever bit you're using for both your pocket the same as your inlay, just because sometimes the bits can just be a little bit different, even if they're the same shank. Even on like different machines, the same bit could be a little bit different in the way they rotate or things are dialed in. So you want to keep as much constant as possible because you're trying to get just the tightest fit as you can when you're doing these inlays. So anyway, so yeah, you would cut all of that out, good to go. And then you would come to the next piece and you would cut the circle piece out. So then at that point, you have a circle of maple and then a big board of walnut with a circle hole. And then all you would do is you would just put those together and you would either, I've seen people clamp them down, or you can put like a board on top and clamp the board down to apply even pressure and then glue it into place. Again, because we were playing with that tolerance, and that tolerance again, we set right in here, this tolerance right here. Because we set that, you can adjust that. So what I would definitely suggest, because everyone's machine is going to be a little bit different, and honestly, even the wood's going to be different, depending on like your location and moisture and like species and stuff, is I would definitely test this out on a piece of scrap. So maybe you make this like a 1/2 inch circle or even smaller, and just cut out a little piece and see if you've got the settings dialed in to where the cutout is going to match what you're trying to cut into. So even if you're using, you've done it before and you're using a new piece of wood, it always doesn't hurt if you've got the extra. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat real quick and we'll go on to some other ones. Let's see, Benny is asking, what do you use for cedar? Like what type of cedar is that you're asking? If you guys have suggestions, let them know in the chat. I've used this like Eastern red cedar, if that's specifically what you're asking. All right, Derek is asking, I used them for sign building for different color sections. This is a previous conversation, I'm guessing. Okay, so, all right, let's jump into the next one. So this is going to be pretty much the same thing, but this time we're going to use an actual design to drop in. So again, I pretty much will do the same process. I'm just going to jump over here, and we are going to do a inlay, but first I want to add in my design. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to use the Pro Design Library, and I think I just searched for Rocket. And you guys should have access to designs, maybe not all of them if you're not on an Easel Pro, but even the standard Easel account, you should have access to tons of these. So maybe, I forget what I put in earlier. we'll just use, let's see, we'll use this guy. Set it as a fill. And I am just making it bigger by clicking on the edges. And then that's one thing too with the design library. I think I mentioned this last time is they might come in differently, like how the designs are put together. So you can see these were just brought in as separate vectors, which is actually fine because I didn't want that piece. So, but if you wanted to keep it, let me undo a bunch of things real quick. You would select the whole thing, right click and hit combine, and then this saves this as one vector that you can use. But I don't think, yeah, you can't undo a combine. Let me put this in the center. And then you got your rocket ship. And again, nothing really matters on this in terms of depth or yeah, anything, because we're going to create everything off of this. But you can already see, if I simulate it and I zoom in, you can see we're not going to get those corners because, again, we're using an 1/8 inch bit. So if I switch this to a 1/16 because I wanted to get more detail, resimulated it, and we're going to get a little bit closer on those corners. But just know, because we're doing the inlays without a V-carve, you're not going to be able to get those sharp points for the inside of a pocket just because you're always working with the diameter of the bit. So that could even like impact your design. So if it's really curved like a circle or even like text, usually you're going to be okay depending on how you're putting it in there. So anyway, we would select the whole thing, come over to the generator, hit inlay, and then because we're going to be using a 1/16 of an inch, we need to make sure and switch this. And I think you can just do this. Let me see. Nope. So you can do this, 0.0625 and 0.003 for my tolerance. So that's all you do. And again, I won't repeat those steps because you just saw it with the circles, but you would basically position this, cut out the pocket, then get your next piece of wood and cut this out. So before we go on to this one, which this one we're going to do a little bit more on the designing side of things, are there any questions right now? Benny, you're asking which wood. When I ask what wood I use, I'm trying soft birch as a choice. Okay, one thing about, yeah, good question. So one thing about the materials, you may not see all these options. You may only see a few. And so if you didn't know, there's actually a toolbox up here at the top, and you can click into bits, materials, and cut settings. And really all of them will bring you into this kind of menu with tabs at the top. And you can add materials to your toolbox. So those are actually showing up as options. And you can come up here, add a material. You can either do Inventables materials or custom. And even if you add one of ours and you didn't buy it from us, that's still fine. You're still going to see everything. So we were talking about cedar earlier, weren't we? Cedar in here. And I'm sorry, guys, I have a little bit of a cold. So I'm stuffed up. Okay, I'm going to put Paduke because I don't think we have cedar. And maybe I didn't add it. Okay, yeah, showing up. And so this is how you can add materials. Same thing with bits. So I probably have a lot of bits that look different than yours. Again, you guys can go in and add either Inventables bits or custom bits. And that's actually, I have some custom ones like the 60 degree. I have a big 1/4 inch, and I think I have like a 1.5 inch like planing bit in here somewhere. But anyway, so that's how you can add all of that stuff. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, but that would be how you would add in your materials. And then the only thing the material is affecting is first is your like visual, like what this actually looks like, which actually I found this is super helpful, especially if you're making something for a client, is you can create a quick look of like what this is going to look like. Although doing the inlays is going to be a little bit different because you can't really see everything at once. But the big thing is it's going to adjust the cut settings. So we have some pretty conservative cut settings for all the materials, combination of materials and bits that come from inventables. So you'll see these numbers adjust, but just like with everything, you can always go in manual and you can adjust these depending on your situation. Okay, so a couple other questions. Craig and Ahmed are both asking, can you do 2 bits? So you can, but again, you might run into the situation where the tolerances are going to get messed up depending on your machine. Because yeah, if you're like, let's say you had something super intricate, but you had to like hog out a ton of material, doing this with a 16th inch bit would not be fun. But I mean, you still can do add in another detail bit or add in a thicker bit and a thinner bit. You just run the chance of potentially the tolerances not working as well. Is the only thing to watch out for. Derek also asked, after a combine, so what I was doing earlier, can't you edit or undo? So you can't undo a combine like you can undo like a move. Like if I move that, hit it, undo. What you can do though is, this is one of the generators, is the exploder. And you can explode things that have been put together, either this exploder or the actual shape exploder. So it works a little bit different, but that's basically like doing a Command Z or Control Z on a combine. The one thing though is, if you do a combine that is like this, say you have these 2 pieces together, and then you right click and you hit combine. So that is destructive. So you can't go back and explode those out. So that's why I always suggest you guys, before you make these like final changes to where you get like everything all combined together into one piece. Actually, is it gonna let me do it? No, I can't undo what I was wanting to show you. Is you would have those created. Let me do it real quick. Sorry. Then you just move them out of the way, edit, copy, edit, paste, and then do your combine. So then you have like a master of everything changed, then do the combine, and then you've got everything there. So that's what I do, just because you can't like retroactively take out a combine. Oh, Derek did let you do it. Okay, so maybe sometimes mine does weird. Yeah, Papa was asking, can you do 2-stage carving? Yes, with the bits, is that what you guys are asking? Yes, you can. And actually, we're going to get into, and you guys might be asking also, can you do like a 2-stage inlay? So like, let's say, and actually there's a really good example from the past that we have done. Let me find. Okay, so this is actually the video I was talking about earlier. Let me pull up I'll pull up the tutorial in a minute, but you can see this is actually red right here. So that's a little heart inside of Illinois. And so that is like a different piece. So I don't know if you're talking about that as like a second stage of the carving, but you could do that as well. Or you could do like an entire inlay. Then that is now your base. And then you come back and you do another inlay on top of that. So it can get pretty much as complicated as you want. So you can do it that way as well. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but you can definitely do that as well. Okay, cool. So let's keep on rolling. We're going to make this one real quick. And again, this one isn't going to be super long today, because really you guys have seen pretty much the basics of how the generator works. And a lot of it just comes into actually putting this together on an actual machine. And like I said, next week, the goal is to actually be in the shop so we can be carving some stuff out in real life. So this was one, I think I was searching. Yeah, I saw this guy from whatever that is, Werther Cutlery. They're like custom cutting boards. And so I just did my last name and I made it plural because I think I saw like a restaurant or something. So I thought that looked cool. And you could do pretty much the same thing. So you can do more complex shapes and shapes that you put together yourself. So we'll actually design this so you can kind of see that process, if that's helpful for you guys. So I'm just going to make a new workpiece, and I'm actually going to delete this guy. And yeah, okay. So I'm trying to see the font that I used. This was the, oh, I've already made this. Okay. Let me start from scratch because I don't really remember what font I'd use for that. Let's go Bakersville maybe. All right, so I'm just adding in a font, typing in my letter, doing a big C, and I'll worry about centering and all that kind of stuff here in a minute. I'm actually going to make this one really big, so I'm not having to worry about the tolerances. I think I am going to have to use the 16th, but I'm going to try it with an 8th. We'll see how far we can get. Then the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and put in my name, and this font should still be in there. This is Homestead, and this doesn't probably look the best, but you guys will get the idea. All right, so we're putting that in. I'm going to resize this guy. And then this was something I'd forgotten about when I was playing around with this earlier. So this is the main reason I wanted to bring it up is, so you want to do this, and actually this isn't the cleanest of designs. So if you guys are looking at it, what we're about to do is going to be the real version. But I initially made this outside box I just made it as like a square, and I brought it over. But then I set the cut to outside, which if this was just going to be just like an inlay, or this was just going to be a pocket, we weren't going to do the inlay generator, this would have been fine. And then I made another square, so actually I edited, copied, pasted, and then I made this one a pocket, and I made this 0. Yeah, you guys don't have to follow this step by step because this is the wrong way to do it. But I was just showing you kind of what I was thinking. So I was basically making this. So then I could grab both of these, right click, and send them to the back. So I had this on top. But if I go in and I actually try to make an inlay from this, right click, Inlay Generator, it's not going to look right. And especially if I took out this, because then I was like, all right, what's going on? Let me just look at just this box. Again, I'll do Inlay Generator so you got to see what it looks like. And it's doing the full inside. Like it's not giving, like I want just this cut out, like what it looks like on here. So really what you got to do is you can't set your thickness of a line by your bit size when you're doing a generator. So to actually make that box, what you need to do is start out from an actual box. So let me do this. Let me resize this as well. I'm going to set this to 0 just so I can see what I'm doing. And we're going to adjust this in a minute. But, so let's say I got this something kind of like that, and we'll center all this in a second. But then I wanted to do the outline of it. So let me see what size this is. Can I make this? Let me make it a little bit easier on the math side, just so you guys can see what's going on. I'm gonna do 1.5 and 3, and then I can resize it. I'm gonna make another one of these. Copy, edit, paste. And so then instead of 1.5 and 3, this is, oh, that was the position, shoot. Let me do this as 7.5 and 1, let me just do this as 1.5. Okay, and then we flip these back. So this is going to be 0. So we're gonna treat this as a mask in a minute. And then the text is going to be whatever that thickness was. I don't even know what this is set to. Is this still at an 1/8? Oh, is it 0.5? Okay. And then I'm selecting the box underneath. Edit, copy, edit, paste. And you could either make it, whatever the thickness of the line is, you can either make it bigger. So I can make this, actually I'll probably do it that way. I'll do 0.7, let's do 0.77. So we'll make it 0.2 bigger in both directions. And let's see what this looks like. And then I'm gonna make this cut down to 0.05. And then I'm gonna send this whole thing to the back. Then if I put these together, we're basically getting that line. And I'm probably actually gonna need to make it thicker to work with our bit. So let me make it a little bit thicker, 7.9, 1.9. Then if you select both of these guys together, and you can use our line commands, and then you can put the whole thing together. So then you've got that shape. From here, you can actually go in and then do the combines and do the masks and stuff to get what we're going for. So I am actually going to select everything because I don't want to lose any of this. I am first going to, I'm clicking and dragging, selecting, centering everything in both directions. Yeah, that looks good enough. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. All right, now I'm gonna move this out of the way. Now I'm gonna edit. Oh, not what I meant to do. All right, edit, copy, edit, paste. I'm just gonna do this on one work piece so it doesn't get super messy. And then from here, what I can do is actually, I still have, this is like its own piece. So undo that. And I'm gonna do a combine with this. This should, sorry, wrong way. Nope, sorry, combine with that back box. So what I'm basically doing is I'm selecting this box in the back, the box in the front, doing a combine, and it's going to cut that hole out. But also I should have cut it out from the C as well, and that would have gotten me that piece in the back, which is what I was trying to do. I think I need to bring this to the front is what's going on. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that, guys. I had forgotten for a second how that worked. Okay, so again, I'm selecting that white box. I'm going to bring this to the front. Selecting the C and then selecting the white box, right click, hit combine. Well, I think I select this first. The C, then the white box, hit combine. Yeah, it's showing up. You just, I have that other box in there too. I basically would have to do two of those. But anyway, so that's the general-ish process that you could go in there, do the combines, do the mask and stuff to get to the final shape that you are looking for. Let me look real quick, because that's like just the general inlay stuff as far as what you would need to do, because then if we were using this final design here, we could go in, we could do the apps, do the Inlay Generator, and this is at a 16th, and so again I would need to change this to 0.0. So and you can see the tolerances are just about as tight as I can get, or sorry, the bit is not super thin, but so we're getting pretty close. So we might even have to go even smaller, but you just run the chance of breaking it. So then you get your two pieces, and then you can go in and cut everything out. And this one, like these pieces will actually be separate, so they have to go in and put in all of the C-U-L-L-U-M and the S. But yeah, that's like the general process of how you can go through there and create that. And then if you guys are watching in the future, I will clean this file up so it looks a lot better. And also, I'll fix this. I didn't want you guys to have to sit there and watch me make a change and then hit undo. But anyway, so yeah, what questions do you guys have, if any, about this process in general? Is it making sense for you guys, Wesley? Yes, no, maybe? Totally fine if not. Benny was saying, and I might be missing it, do you have to start at the left bottom? Can you start from the middle of the drawing? I think you're talking about carving, like where you have your machine set up. Is that what you're asking, Benny? I'm assuming that is. If not, let me know in the comments. So this is definitely something we can cover, because this was something when I was initially learning CNC stuff before, like working in Inventables, all that kind of stuff, was just like the position of your machine in relation to your material can be confusing, because you have like different 0 points. Like you have, like when you zero your machine, when you first turn it on, and then you can have your 0 point of like your work material, a bunch of different points. But so kind of the common way you see people do is they will have, literally this is like their machine. So you guys have, I think I have the Carve Pro in here. I have a big one. Yeah, so you have this to set up to like the very left corner, and then sometimes people will put like a little wooden square, so you always have something to reference it up against, and so then you can have little clamps holding everything down. Or if you guys are doing like a big piece and you know maybe you're gonna, this is like rough cut lumber and the edges aren't straight, and so you don't care about it lined up on the edges, you just want something right in the middle, and they're gonna come back later and cut everything off. You can actually do your design with the reference of the 0 in the middle. So normally the 0 is at 0, 0 on your X and Y inside of Easel. But you could set this to 0, 0. So I'm selecting the whole design. And this will still cut this out. And again, like we talked about, how this is still, even anything outside of that work area, anything in the blue is still going to carve out. This is like one of the reasons why. Because now imagine that you're looking down at your material, and your material is actually set up like this. And so then the machine starts here, and it's going to cut this out. And so I've done that with bigger pieces, especially too, where I know I can get something like centered, like I'll do like the X or whatever, like on the material, and then hit the very center point, and then that's where I put my 0, and then carve from there. So I think that is what you're asking. Let me know if not. Let me move that back into place. Cool. So guys, yeah, so this one will be a little short this week. Like I said, we'll be back next week, hopefully in the shop. I hope you guys are doing well. As always, if you guys have questions, you can hit us up on email, either help@inventables.com. Also, our phone number is here. Let me find it, because actually I should know it. They're just 313-775-7009. And then always, if you guys jump to the forums, we have several people, not Inventables employees, that are super fast at responding. I know, Papa, you've been great in the forums as well. But yeah, jump to the forums, ask any questions you guys have. Even if you guys don't have an Carve, lots of people are doing things with like 3018 machines. They're using Easel. They're doing stuff with Universal G-Code Sender. So you guys don't have to be using our hardware, but we want to help out if you guys are using Easel to communicate with it. So let me switch it. Hope you guys are doing good. I think everybody's set, and we will talk to you guys next week, 1:30 Eastern, hopefully inside my shop. All right, see you guys.